Welcome to SVGTV News for Thursday, November 18, 2021. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. 2 field hospitals worth $1.34 million were handed over today to the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines from the U.S. government through its Southern Command base in Barbados. The donation of the field hospitals is part of the humanitarian assistance program set up by the United States Southern Command. Speaking at the handing over ceremony at the E.T. Joshua Tarmac, Director of the National Emergency Management Organization, Michelle Forbes, gave an overview of how they were able to procure the 2 field hospitals.
First we recognize some of our shortcomings when we had the trade wind exercise in 2019, if many of you remember that. And we had to deploy the field hospital from Barbados. And I remember clearly the chief medical officer with a quiet voice, Michelle, we need one of these here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So when this program came through, Janice, and I really want to thank Janice for being our liaison over the years, and especially on this program, Janice from US Southcom. She's the one I've been harassing over the last few months. Janice, what's the status of our field hospital, especially when the CMO would call me and ask me, Michelle, when is it coming? But to note that it is through these efforts that we actually decided that we needed to have the field hospital. So when it came on board and the project came on board, we said yes right away. And the CMO indicated that we would need to because of our multi-island state, St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Director of the Exercise and Coalition Affairs with the U.S. Southern Command, Kevin Bostic, said that the donation of the field hospitals from the U.S. government to SVG will help to strengthen the bond between the 2 countries.
Donating this field hospital to you today shows the resolve that the United States of America has within the region, and in this case specifically with the St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It is our pleasure to do this, to be able to show on the world stage that we, the United States of America, partner with you in strengthening our bond and helping to build the team to go forward into the future. COVID has taken a toll on all of us around the world this last 18 months. COVID will be with us probably in the near future, in the long-term future as well. And things such as donating this specific hospital to you will allow the St. Vincent and the Grenadines to do some of the things that you may not be able to do in your current infrastructure when the hospitals are overrun, when you need extra bed space, when you need extra capability to make sure the people of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines are taken care of appropriately.
Minister of Health, Wellness and the Environment, Sinclair Jimmy Prince, thanked the U.S. government for its kind gesture, noting that the field hospitals will help to ease the burden on the health facilities in SVG due to the COVID-19 pandemic and other challenges.
A field hospital is a temporary setup on a site or in the field to provide medical intervention prior to being discharged or transported to a permanent facility. These particular units are modular units in that they can be utilized in parts or as a whole. They have 6 modules or tents and come with their own generators, water facility, and water management systems. In St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we are constantly assessing the health environment, and preparedness and response is a key element in this undertaking. That is why these 2 units are so important in the scheme of things. We have been very proactive over the past 2 years with respect to our disaster preparedness, and in particular to our response to COVID-19. We have been so proactive that it has become a controversial issue now.
The field hospitals are currently set up at the decommissioned E.T. Joshua Tarmac. However, Minister Prince said they will be used at the Milton Cater Memorial Hospital and at the Beckway Hospital. The ribbon cutting at today's handing over ceremony was done by Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves and U.S. Ambassador to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean, Her Excellency Linda Chagilita. In some COVID-19 related news now, we hear that 9 new COVID-19 positive cases were reported here from 119 samples collected on Tuesday, November 16th, resulting in a positivity rate of 7.6%. 8 new rapid antigen positive results were also reported on Tuesday from flu clinics. and 10 new positive cases were reported from 249 samples collected on Wednesday, November 17th, resulting in a positivity rate of 4.0%. 3 new rapid antigen positive results were also reported on Wednesday from flu clinics. There are currently 10 patients admitted for COVID-19 at the Argyle Isolation Facility. All are said to be unvaccinated. At the COVID-19 wards at the Milton Cato Memorial Hospital, 12 patients have been admitted. All are unvaccinated. No new deaths were recorded over the reported period. 4 new recoveries were noted over the reported period. 1,258 cases are currently active and 73 persons with COVID-19 have died. 5,378 cases of COVID-19 and 4,047 recoveries have been recorded in St. Vincent and the Grenadines since March 2020. As the Christmas season approaches, Vincentians are being encouraged not to let their guards down to prevent another spike in COVID-19 cases on island. On radio this week, Health Promotions Officer Shanika John said they are currently in the process of reviewing some fully vaccinated events for the Christmas season. John said that measures will be put in place for nationals to have an enjoyable Christmas season, but a safe one.
From the individual level, that also goes to the national level with some requirements, and that also goes to those persons who may just want to, so to speak, exhale for a little bit. So we're trying to do as much as we can in those requirements. For the individual level and for the families, I want you to plan your family plan. When it comes to shopping, try to do it early. Avoid the crowds, avoid the different gatherings that really don't encourage or need you to be physically there, especially if you're going in a setting where you're not sure of the vaccination status of those around you. So we really want persons to think ahead. I mean, I'm in November, today's just the 16th, but my brain is already at December 16th.
Right.
The Health Promotions Officer said it is also best that persons avoid large shopping areas where they are not sure of the person's vaccination or COVID-19 status. She said the Ministry of Health will be working along with the relevant authorities to ensure the enforcement of the COVID-19 protocols so that the COVID-19 numbers will continue to trend downwards even after the Christmas season.
Ministry, we're meeting with multiple sectors to ensure that we really try to put a grip on it so that leading out of December into January, we can say safely and comfortably to be, continue to see our numbers trending downwards. But if persons are reluctant, if you're hesitant and you still want to just do what you say, anything I say, nobody tell me nothing, this is a whole fake, nothing going to happen to you, then we're going to suffer the consequences of those. And the consequences of those, unfortunately, could result in death. Could be somebody for me, could be somebody
That's
for
right.
you,
Yep.
could be somebody you know in your neighborhood. It's so fragile.
Yes.
And so we
Yes.
really want to ensure that persons wear your mask properly, keep your distance, sanitize your hands, and before it is too late, get vaccinated for COVID.
The government vaccination policy for all frontline workers to take at least one dose of the available COVID-19 vaccines is expected to come into effect tomorrow, Friday, November 19th, 2021, with a grace period of 10 days. The policy applies to 13 categories of workers, including teachers, nurses, police officers, port workers, etc. Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves said as of Monday, November 15, 2021, 60% of primary and secondary school teachers have been vaccinated, while at the technical institutions, the vaccination rate is 56%.
Nearly 500 in the primary school and nearly 600 in the secondary schools. I'm talking about teachers. And the way in which, with technologies now, we can deliver, and if we have to hire more persons, we hire more persons. In other words, some people saying jobs would be lost. Well, some would decide that they would not continue to be employed. That's their choice. But a number of people will come on, Johnny P. The technical institutes is 56%. There are 4 technical institutes, 41 teachers out of the 71 of them. And that's the story there.
The Prime Minister made it clear that teachers who refuse to get vaccinated and abandon their job because of the vaccination policy will not be compensated for their years of service.
Under the regulations, when you have abandoned your job, which is what you would be doing under the law, in fact and in law, abandoning your job, your benefits go by the board. There's a different arrangement between that and the police. The police pension arrangements are different. You can get a golden handshake after 10 years, after 20 years in the police force. Not in the prisons, not in the nursing service, not in the teaching service, not in the public service. Those are the pre-existing rules. I didn't make them because the rules with the police have a different origin and it's a different nature for service.
All right.
Those are the facts. I've been talking this all the time. But people not listening to me. They're listening, well, some listening, but some listening to other people.
The Prime Minister said teachers have no reason not to get vaccinated, except those with exemption for various reasons.
There is no reason, no rational reason why you should not take the vaccine. If you have a medical condition which is approved and there's a list of those conditions, that's fine. You get an exemption. If you have a religious exemption, which is a narrowly defined exemption, we still have to find somewhere for you to go because you ain't going, you're not going anywhere. The accommodation may not be able to be made for you to go anywhere.
Right.
Take the vaccine. Over 5 billion people in the world have taken the vaccine, and only reaction to a minuscule group. There's been no reaction in St. Vincent and Grenadines, yes, which is negative. But everybody who died from COVID was unvaccinated.
And the legal team of the SVG Teachers Union has advised teachers who will not be meeting tomorrow's deadline to get vaccinated to show up on the job as usual and not to resign or retire over the matter. This is according to President of the SVGTU, Oswald Robinson, who was addressing a panel discussion on Tuesday as part of activities to mark Teacher Solidarity Week. Robinson encouraged teachers to stand together in this challenge, vaccinated or not. He said the union and its legal team is prepared to fight on behalf of all affected teachers.
To put into the public's domain what legal strategy we are implementing, because you can't put that in the hands of the opponent, but we are preparing very much for that. But for now, the teachers union position continues to be, is that we do not ask any of our members to resign. We believe in the Constitution of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, which is the supreme law. When the government, in those 2 legal matters that we won in court, when they were speaking administrative law, we were speaking constitutional law, and we won them on those 2 occasions. And Sister Antonia made a point. How could you unilaterally decide to just change your working conditions overnight? We could imagine there are teachers who have done almost 30-something and 30 years, and you're going to tell them pack up and go. Because that is your philosophy, your ideology, So we are going to, that's why we're telling our teachers stand together. We have been advised by our legal team that teachers must not resign, do not seek for any retirement now, and that you show up for duties. If you want to strike for those 2 days, that is an option, but we have to decide that in our meeting.
President of the Barbados Union of Teachers, Pedro Shepherd, also urged the nation's teachers to stand firm on their principle.
If the government wants to dismiss teachers, then teachers must stand in solidarity with their comrades. I do not see a government replacing 3,000 or 4,000 teachers at any one time. If you look at the teachers across St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I'm sure that you have thousands of years of experience. Are you going to throw that down the drain to find persons without any experience to teach the nation's children. What is it that the government intends to achieve by dismissing teachers who refuse to take the vaccine for whatever reason, medical or religious or otherwise?
Also speaking on the panel discussion was General Secretary of the Caribbean Union of Teachers, Don Howell, who urged SVG teachers not to let the COVID-19 vaccination mandate divide them.
We have to stand together. And like Brother Shepherd said, the government cannot replace 3,000 teachers in one day. What will happen is if all teachers, vaccinated or not, send a clear message to the government that it will not allow its policies to divide, then it will force the government to listen to teachers. You must take the stand, and we must not be afraid. We must not be afraid, because we must remember, once one is touched, they touch all. Must not be afraid, and let your voices be heard.
President of the Trinidad and Tobago Union of Teachers, Antonio Tica de Freitas, also encouraged all teachers in SVG to be part of every meeting being held in preparation for the defense of the unvaccinated.
That you attend whatever meeting or discussion will take place in preparation for Friday. Do not stay away. If you agree or disagree with the union's perspective or with Robbie's perspective, or you don't agree, don't hide behind the leadership's skirts. Go to the meeting. Let your voice be heard in agreement or disagreement. That's why you elected these leaders, for them to represent your voice. If you don't share your voice and your perspectives, then they are as weak as the government makes them out to be. And that will take me to support the points made by my other two comrades. The state will not seek to replace all workers at once if you all stand together for as long as it takes.
And the vaccination rate among police officers is said to have increased significantly over the last few days, with the numbers jumping to 82% as of yesterday, Wednesday, November 17, 2021. This is according to Commissioner of Police Colin John, who was speaking on Boom FM this morning. Commissioner John said it is his hope that all members of the RSVG police force will get vaccinated. However, he said he has received a few applications for exemption.
Well, some persons say that they're not comfortable. Some persons say for religious reasons, for health reasons. We've also received some application for exemption on medical grounds, also religious grounds. So when we receive those applications, we have forwarded to the relevant authority for them to make a determination in that regard. I would like the whole police force to be fully vaccinated. This would really help us to be more productive in that. Okay, some time ago, I worked at the police headquarters. He wasn't a police officer, but he contracted COVID. And because some persons there were unvaccinated, that reduced productivity at that time. So if the entire police force is fully vaccinated, that would definitely help the organization and help the people of St. Vincent and Grenadines.
Currently, there are approximately 1,100 officers serving with the RSVG police force, and according to Commissioner John, less than 20 officers have either resigned or retired as a result of not wanting to comply with the vaccination policy for frontline workers. Commissioner John said contingency plans are, however, in place for officers who refuse to take the jab and leave the job, noting that interviews with vaccinated applicants are being conducted as they will soon be recruiting new members.
Some time ago, asking for applicants or persons who had submitted application to the police force prior to submit their vaccination status. So some of those persons have brought in their vaccination status or vaccination card to us. some other persons who are willing, who are first-time applicants, they have also brought in their vaccination status. We have been conducting interviews with some of those persons. So very soon we should be recruiting some new members in the organization. I just want to take this opportunity though to strongly encourage the current members, once you do not have any cogent health reason or any significant religious reason not to be vaccinated, to vaccinate. We value your service, we value your performance in the organization. We do not wish for persons to take a knee-jerk reaction and leave the organization, and then you suffer financial and other social consequences, because you know you can have spill-off from being unemployed. You have children to feed, children looking into your faces, and you can't maintain them. That can increase the stress level in the home, can result in breakdown in relationship and all those things. So I really strongly encourage current members of the organization to get fully vaccinated.
Commenting on a recent statement by Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, in which he said the RSVG police force can operate with 800 officers if it came to that, Commissioner John said even though resources may be limited, it is possible.
The greater number of persons in the organization, the better, but we are able to utilize whatever resources we have at our disposal to properly police St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So the short answer is that it can happen. Well, resources are always limited, and one of the reasons why we're encouraging not only police officers to be vaccinated, but other members of the public, is that if the country is overwhelmed by COVID, it can place significant, significantly affect the resources of the country, the health. So more persons would be seeking medical attention. So that would affect the resources of the country, and also affect the resources of the police force, because finance that would have to be diverted to health could have gone to some other sector of the population. So we have limited resources, but I know the government, and other citizens, corporate citizens, friendly government, they have assisted the police from time to time. So we try as far as possible to do the best we can with what resources we have.
The vaccination rate of other frontline workers as of Monday, November 15th, Port 60%, at the Argyle International Airport 67%, and prison officers 85%. An update now on the health condition of former Prime Minister Sir James Mitchell. Reports are that he was to be discharged from the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Barbados around midday today and returned to his home in Beckway. Sir James' son-in-law Dwight Bing Joseph told NBC Radio that Sir James received excellent medical care in Barbados to have his conditions of severe dengue fever and sepsis resolved. However, he continues to face other medical challenges.
Sir James will be discharged from the Queen Elizabeth Hospital today at noon. He will return to his home in Beckway. Sir James, 90 years old, has remained resilient in spirit. He has been placed on 24-hour nursing care with ongoing medical guidance from a doctor. While in Barbados, at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, Sir James received excellent medical attention under the care of Dr. Michael Foucault and Dr. M. Tate. His condition of severe dengue had been resolved. He continued to face challenges with other medical complications. Now, we extend heartfelt gratitude to the people and government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines for the overwhelming love, the support, the thoughts, and the prayers. We, of course, want to thank wholeheartedly Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves for every courtesy extended to Sir James and the family. We also express sincere gratitude to the Honorable Mayor Motley, Prime Minister of Barbados, for welcoming Sir James to Barbados and the care and attention afforded to him at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. Throughout the entire ordeal, of course, Sir James has been comforted by the support and love expressed on a daily basis for his former cabinet ministers, colleagues, constituents, and his cherished NDP family. As Sir James is brought back to St. Vincent today, he's coming back via a ambulance and will be taken to Beckway and will be resting at home in Beckway. As I said, he will be managed by 24 nurse, and a doctor will be on call as well to give any guidance that is needed in the management of his health.
A government senator and Deputy Speaker of the House of Assembly, Ashel Morgan, and Deputy Director of Public Prosecution, Kareem Nelson, have been acquitted of charges brought against them stemming from an incident at Diamond Estate on April 13, 2021, in which Cornelius John was shot in the leg. In commenting on the outcome of the case, lawyer K. Bacchus Batiste, who held a watch-and brief in the matter and is representing John in another matter arising from the April 13th incident, said while she predicted the outcome, it is a sad day not only for her client, but for the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
I had already predicted that if I was doing the case, they would walk. They would walk because of core procedural conduct of the case. It was very clear to me that when the prosecution did not charge those three persons together jointly, they were setting them up for this. When they did not charge them for criminal trespass, they were setting them up for this. When they charged minor magisterial offenses rather than high court offenses, they were setting them up for this. When they did not take a statement from the first person who attended there very early, Rochelle Franklin, early enough, they were setting them up for this. When they did not even begin the investigation until weeks after, and until the public cried out for it, they were setting them up for this. So, to me, the prosecution was a real sham. They brought in a prosecutor at the public expense. You had to pay him, put him up, but they did not give him all the tools with which to deal with the case.
Batiste said in all her years as a lawyer, she has never seen a key witness being left out of a criminal case and attributed this as the main reason for the dismissal of the case against Morgan and Nelson.
To my mind, the magistrate was not, made some wrong decisions. In all my years of practice, criminal law, I have never seen a magistrate refuse to summon a witness, an important witness in a criminal case, who refused to turn up. The witness, Vernon Adams, was warned to come to court. This Vernon Adams was the third person who went with the defendant to my client's land, my client's home when he was shot. Vernon Adams, a very close friend of the assistant DPP, did not come to court, and when the prosecution made an application for summons to be issued, it was refused on the most spurious reasons that the trial is taking too long, that the prosecution should have had him there when they asked him to come, but he didn't come. That was the main reason for this dismissal.
According to Batiste, the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines have been denied justice and a terrible precedent has been set.
I think the magistrate, as I said, that decision was a wrong decision, and I've never seen it happen before. What is worse, it is a terrible precedent, because you're setting a precedent that if you have an important prosecution witness and they don't turn up in court when they're supposed to turn up, the court can say, matter's going on too long, I am not issuing a summons to compel him to come to court. Of course, the defense lawyer made heavy weather of that. Of course, they have a job to do, so they made heavy weather of it, but it was not correct. And so, as I said, in the final analysis, the people of St. Vincent and Grenadines have been denied justice, because this is a matter brought by the state.
Batiste is also of the view that the matter was not properly investigated and said it is a travesty of justice. However, she is awaiting the case against her client, who has been charged for threatening the government senator.
It was the fact that they did not investigate this matter properly, to have the shells properly labeled so that they could be a chain of custody. But even that was not sufficient, because there is a statement made by Karim Nelson that put him on the scene, also made by Vernon Adams, also made by Ashel Morgan that put them there on the scene. I think the prosecution failed to have the police get the content of that statement before the court. I think they failed in that because it's their duty to do that also. It's just a travesty of justice. So I wait now for Miss Ashel Morgan to turn up in a court to go on oath and give evidence that my client threatened her, contrary to what Mr. John's wife would have said from her witness statement so far and from her evidence in court. I wait for her now to come and take the Bible, go on a witness stand, and say that Cornelius John threatened her after all of this. We'll wait the date for that.
One of the defense lawyers, Ronald Marks, told SVGTV News in a telephone interview today that 3 days was set aside for the conclusion of the case, and the prosecution doubled the time to present the evidence they had against their clients, which he said were weak.
Double the time, they still have not adduced evidence that even placed my client on the scene, and further, the virtual complainant that they put on the stand gave evidence that it was clear that he was not being truthful, that he was lying to the court, and the medical evidence clearly showed that his scenario of events as it happened could not be the way that it happened. Specifically, the evidence he gave about his being beaten about the body and kicked in his stomach and all of that. Several doctors examined him. Not one of the doctors saw any evidence of any injury to his person with regards to that, other than the bullet to his foot. Other than that, the medical evidence showed that even though there was a fracture of his leg, it was not a displaced fracture in that the bones never separated. So therefore, that is indicative of a bullet that was fired from a distance of 8 feet or more. This is inconsistent with what he gave evidence that my client held on to his foot and shot him in his foot. But quite separate and apart from that, the reason that the case collapsed was because there was no identification evidence that placed my client on the scene, and they could bring no circumstantial evidence to create that nexus between my client and the person that they described that shot him that night.
Mark suggested that in the future, police respond to reports of domestic violence in a more timely manner, as he cited some of the evidence which were presented in court against Cornelius John, who was the alleged victim in the matter.
Because that report was made since before 5 o'clock, and there was no police on the scene, according to the prosecution witnesses, until between 6:30 and 7 o'clock after the shooting had occurred, and it could have been prevented. So I would like to see, coming out from that police realize that, you can't put the pressure on civilians to maintain peace and protect life in circumstances like this. In the case of domestic violence, I'm sympathetic to the police in that it was, we had just had a volcanic eruption, and they must have been very busy dealing with the security for the shelters and all of that. But generally, I think that a better response time to the report of issues of domestic violence, that the police need to work on that.
Asked whether he believes the trial was a fair one, the veteran defense lawyer said, totally.
As a matter of fact, the prosecutor that they brought here prosecuted this case in a way that I've never seen before. He viciously prosecuted this case. He could have almost, compared to prosecuting the case, he tried to shut us down at every length that they don't want them to see the sort of the character evidence of Mr. John, to see his history of past violence against women. And they tried everything within their arsenal to try to prevent the court from seeing the sort of character that we are dealing with. The man who's painting himself as a man of God. The same man who his wife said that he said he's going to sacrifice her head and her blood and her children and her grandchildren to the devil. So one has to wonder, who is his God from the evidence? And these are the sort of statements that this man is making. and persons are there in support of this man who is claiming that he's going to sacrifice a human life to the devil and then go and call himself a godly man. You know, it's amazing. But he's supported by someone who has their political agenda. They've lost favor apparently with their party. They've lost the election. They've been removed from their position as senator, and they're now trying to use this now to gain some sort of political relevance. But the law is the law, and the facts are the facts, and I'm very happy as to the way that things turned out today.